Hi there, Chris Whelan here from Chris Whelan Coaching. I hope you're all well. It's winter here in Wellington, New Zealand, and it's pretty chilly. So wherever you're watching this around the country or around the world, hope you are warm and dry. Anyway, enough of that. I want to talk to you today about what I've seen too often in business. In the next probably 5 or 6 or 7 minutes, I want to talk to you about businesses that have no real growth strategy. And the question I would have for you is, as we kick off, are you are you actually growing your business, or are you just busy? And one of the most common mistakes that I see in business is people that are really working hard. They're flat out. They're going flat tack every day. They're running hard, but instead of getting ahead, they're doing it without a growth strategy, and without a clear growth strategy, a deliberate growth strategy. And here's the danger: without that plan, um, inevitably you're reacting to whatever's in front of you, to whatever you see immediately, instead of having a deliberately uh, crafted pathway toward a final destination. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix that problem. So you can go from being busy but stuck to focused, scalable, and growing and doing it consistently. So let's just look at what happens when one operates without that growth strategy that I mentioned. There may be others, but there's at least three things that I see. Number one, you've got lack of direction. And so instead of going in a clear path, priorities get confused. There's inconsistent decision making, right? Because there can't be consistent decision making when a person doesn't know where they're going. So there's lack of direction, number one. Number two, there's inefficient, really, really, really inefficient use of resources. Your time, your money, your energy, it gets scattered across a random acts of growth, if you like. And you don't move that, none of those random acts of growth actually shift the needle on where you want to be. So that's number two. Number three is a real danger, and it's a danger of stagnation. You'll work harder and harder and harder every single day, but you're going to see flat results, missed opportunities, and ultimately declining morale. Declining morale probably for yourself in the first instance, but also for your team. So all of those things we want to get rid of, right? We want to make sure that we can put those behind us, put those aside, and move forward. And let me just give you a quick client example. A few years ago, I was working with a trades business that was constantly busy. If you looked at it from the outside, you think, well, they're doing fantastically. Jobs were booked months in advance. They had a loyal customer base, and a pretty decent team, a full team. But year after year, their profits were pretty static, pretty flat, didn't really move. They were, if you like, proverbially rowing hard, but the boat wasn't going anywhere. And they didn't have a map, so they didn't know where they were going. What we did was to implement my horizon model, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how to do that. But we implemented my horizon model, starting with a 10-year vision, right, where they want to get long term, and then working backwards from that. We set measurable goals at the 5-year mark, at the 3-year mark, at the 1-year mark, and then drove it from there. Within 12 months, their profitability had jumped 18%. Right? Let me say that again, 18% jump within 12 months. They had secured a new geographic market, so outside of where they were initially, and perhaps most importantly, the business owner wasn't in reactive firefighting mode all the time. So they were steering the ship then with confidence. And that for me is exactly how it should be. Ultimately, what's the business there for? Is to create a business asset, right? And that asset appreciates. The value of that business went up through the roof. It's not just about, and let's be clear on this, when I'm working with business owners, often it starts off with cash flow. That's the conversation. But what we're really doing is installing the Action Business Operating System in their businesses and increasing the value of that asset, the value of that business. Because ultimately, if it can work without them, as in the case I just gave you, versus not firefighting, we install the Action Business Operating System, that gets value into the business and ultimately drives everything up. So that horizon model certainly worked. Now, there's probably about, I think, 5 steps in that horizon model, 5 steps to building a really effective growth strategy. And this is the framework that I use, which turns those client results into a repeatable, sustainable process, and that's predictable. So, number one, start with your purpose. Why does your business exist? And often people tend to dumb that down. They don't quite understand this thing of purpose. Now, what I mean by that is, why does your business exist? What difference do you make to the world? What problem, if you like, in the world are you solving through your business? Right? So why do you exist? It might be to make the world more sustainable. It might be to reduce carbon footprints. It might be to have woman in the forefront of business. You might have whatever your purpose is, right? Create prosperous societies. That is where you want to start, right? That's number one. Number two, from that, define your vision, your mission, and your culture. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, what does it look like? Paint a 10-year picture, right? When your business is done, what does it look like in terms of who you want to be, what you want to be doing, how you want to be doing? So the vision in terms of, hey, this is what it looks like. This is who we are. Every day we get up. This is our mission every single day. We want to work with business owners. In my case, I want to work with business owners to help them grow the pie, right? That's what I want to do every day. The vision that I see is a bunch of businesses doing great work, making the societies around them stronger and better and more resilient, more prosperous. That's the vision. The culture, if you like, is one that's collegial, one that actually does business, lives by values. Right? So how do you want to do it? So define your vision, your mission, your culture. You've got your purpose, vision, mission, culture, right? Then from that 10-year picture, work backwards. Why do I say work backwards? Because you don't want to start from where you are today. Where you are today has got limitations, right? It doesn't actually envision a positive future. It looks at, right now the people are talking about the economy is tough. That mindset limits thinking. Right? So go out into the future and say, right, what is it I'm going to create? Work backwards. From the 10, give yourself a 5-year horizon, a 3-year horizon, a 1-year horizon. And then at each stage, ask, so what needs to be true for that stage to have been achieved? That means that you can then say, okay, that's got to be true. Once you've done that, go on to point number 4, which is you choose your growth levers, right? So when I say growth levers, the things that you're going to use to achieve that vision, ultimately. Now, I think in business, there's at least 4 things that you can leverage to make your business the most effective it can be. Number one, systems and technology. So the technology to du jour at the moment is AI, right? What business systems are you going to have? What technology are you going to use? Number two, people in education. What roles do you want? How do you want to educate them? What skills do they need to have? What projects are you going to put in place to grow your people? Number three, testing and measuring. Testing and measuring is absolutely vital, and so many people get it wrong. Do you know your numbers? Do you know what the key numbers are to make proactive, forward-looking decisions? Not just reactive, backward stuff, right? Do you know where, if you invest $1,000, what your return on that investment is going to be if you go to marketing, right? Because it's not an expense, remember, it's a marketing return on investment. So testing and measuring that. And then the fourth one is delivery and distribution. So how do you ensure consistent delivery of your products and services? How do you ensure that it gets to the right people at the right time? And do that in a way which is absolutely consistent so that your customers have high satisfaction and it saves you time. So those 4 things. There's a fifth, I think a fifth growth lever, and that's your management efficiency. So how do you set up your business to be the most efficient it can be? And then the sixth one, if you like, is leadership. How do you and the people around you lead, right? How do you influence things for the future? How do you inspire collaboration? So choose your growth levers. That was point number 4, by the way. Point number 5 in this horizon model is to set the metrics and the projects for each horizon, right? Those 5-year, 3-year, 1-year horizons. Set how you're going to measure to check that you're on track, and what projects you're going to do, and sequence them, right? So then you set your purpose, long term, you've got your vision, your mission, your culture, you've defined, you work backwards, and you've asked what needs to be true at each stage. You've then you've looked at the different growth levers, and you set the metrics and the KPIs. So you've got all that in place. Then it's a question of getting out there and doing it. What you've then got is growth that isn't random. You've actually then got growth that's engineered, right? And you're not doing it from the seat of your pants. You're actually doing it, as I say, as an engineer, designing the future. So get that right. And the example I gave you earlier of the trades business, get that right. When you solve the problem of having no strategic growth plan, you go from rowing that boat aimlessly to actually sailing with a charted course. Every decision that you make becomes deliberate and it's aligned with your end goal. Your resources are focused, they're not scattered all over the show. And they're focused to where they'll have the most impact. And then point number 3 is that your growth becomes scalable and sustainable. Perhaps at a slightly different level, when circumstances change, and let's be clear, they will change, because the old concept of no plan survives first contact. When circumstances change, and as I say, they will, you have a plan that enables you to adapt and to remain on course. Or if you want to get philosophical, and if you like boxing or sport, You'll probably be familiar with Mike Tyson's, I think, fairly famous comment that everyone's got a plan until he punches them in the face, right? So things change. So with this agile plan, with the Horizon model, you can adapt. So here's my challenge to you as I wrap up now. Here's my challenge to you. Within the next 7 days, I say 7 days, within the next 7 days, get your growth strategy out of your head, put it onto paper. Even if it's rough, even if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. Just start, right? You're not going to get going until you take the first step. So in the next 7 days, get it out, write it down. If you want help building that plan, reach out to me. I'll put a link in the description. Reach out to me. Let's set up 15, 20 minutes, have a quick chat, see whether there's something I can do to help you, because this is so important that you do not want to let this slide. So that's my challenge to you. I hope that's been beneficial. Have a fantastic week. All the best. Stay warm, stay dry. See you next time. Cheers.